get to know who's going to film your wedding. Get to know them personally. Know what their personality is like. You want to have like a connection with them.
This is the CreativeKrunch podcast.
Yesterday's left turn might be tomorrow's right turn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wait. That's a good idea.
What if we had more than one guest at a time? Like, what if we brought two different DJs on at the same time?
Who's the better DJ? Go.
And then we leave the room and just see what they...
That's the podcast.
You just sell... We have them sell to us. Like, all right.
Okay, so I'm looking to hire a DJ. Sell me on it. That'd be a terrible idea, but also maybe kind of fun. I think that'd be a thing. Like anytime we have a guest, whatever their business is, or if they're selling something or services or anything, to do like, give me your elevator pitch. Why should we book you or hire you or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. Like we need a thing. We need like a, I've just been doing like, welcome everybody to CreativeKrunch podcast. We need like a Peter McKinnon, like a what's up everybody. Do you have any ideas? Because that's branding, believe it or not.
Well, we need to do something consistent. We could every episode. We start with a of like a pop can at the same time. That's it. Here we go.
Welcome to CreativeKrunch podcast.
The musical beat. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So welcome to CreativeKrunch podcast. This is episode number 3 or 4, whatever you want to look at it. Today, kind of a interesting day, not interesting topic, but if you are newly engaged or plan to get engaged soon or whatever, we're going to talk about what you should look for when you're hiring a wedding videographer. And I guess this could kind of go in line with like photographers and DJs or any type of wedding vendor, but obviously it's going to be much more tailored towards videography. But yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
All right.
So what do we start with? You have questions here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to go over a few topics, like what questions should you ask, the videographer, when you're in the shopping phase of, getting a vendor. We'll probably touch on a little bit about why like budget friendly vendors, kind of have a risk to them if you go with them, meaning like less experience or whatever that may be. And then kind of talk about the value of a wedding videographer and why you can expect to spend, or what you can expect to get if you spend more money or less money or anything like that. But yeah. I guess we're not like super prepped for this. I just took some notes and we just kind of ran into it, but no, I feel like videography is still one of those things that some people think it's like, that's like the optional vendor after we've gotten everything already figured out. And really, when you think about it like that, that's when it gets to the point where you're like, I've already spent all this money. Now I only have $500 for my videographer. Yeah. Realistically, you should be booking them when you book your photographer. I feel because they are just like a quality. If you're spending more than $3,000 on your photographer, you should expect to be spending that like for a videographer. Yeah. Now, not everybody budgets for like that. Maybe that's not in their budget. You may be able to find companies that offer both for a little cheaper. But yeah. Yeah, and I feel like so there's a couple different ways that we get inquiries, or as Ben says, inquiries.
I just got an inquiry today, actually.
Yeah, so did I. Either like they come through Facebook or Instagram, like direct messages. They come straight from emails, or they come through our website. But 9 times out of 10, like the ones that post in like those local wedding buy sell trade groups or whatever they're called in other states, like we have other state people listening. But 9 times out of 10, I feel like those are the ones that are looking for that like budget friendly videographer. They're looking for the, okay, we've got everything else covered. We've got our venue, our photographer, the flowers, dress, food, cater, whatever. And they're like, all right, we've got $1,000 or we got $500 to spend on a videographer. And yeah, so I mean, if I guess since we're kind of just on the topic, if you're looking for like, what do you feel when someone like asks for? What do you think of when someone's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a budget friendly wedding videographer"?
Like, what do I think people are thinking?
Like, yeah, what do you think they're thinking, or what do you think they're looking for? Do you think they're like, it's probably different for each person, but do you think they're looking for like, I want the ceremony, the toast, everything, or do you think they know it'd probably be like, it'd just be like a montage music video type thing with like no story?
Well, first of all, budget friendly is such a vague term because like budget friendly to somebody who's got a $100,000 budget could be a $6,000 videographer.
Yeah.
But or the term doesn't cost an arm and a leg or whatever. And to me, honestly, I mean, like Aaron Masterson always says, like, my arm and my leg are pretty valuable. So, I mean, I don't think I think, like, if you were to equate my my services for an arm and a leg, I would probably be, like, maybe a quarter of an arm, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, that's such a vague term, so it's hard to really know, but budget friendly, I mean, I feel like videography is so new that like people think they saw a video, and so they saw a really cool video and then they saw prices of somebody else, and so they're like, oh, that's probably how much that costs.
Yeah. And it's also tricky too, because there's no problem. Like if you do want a cheaper like wedding videographer, there's no problem if that's actually what you want. Like there are a lot of people that will post on those kind of pages too and be like, hey, I'm looking for a videographer. We don't have a huge budget, and it can be someone who's just starting out too. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I encourage those couples that are looking for something like that to, to go with someone that's just starting out, because everyone has to start somewhere. I started out there. Ben, you started out there. I think Ben even filmed his first wedding on his iPhone.
Yep.
I didn't even do that.
Really the thing about videography is it's so like what you're paying for is so different than photography. There's, okay, like how many cameras does your videographer have? So like how many angles are you going to have for the ceremony? Maybe they offer a package like, oh, we'll give you a highlight, a sneak peek, certain hours of coverage or something. But then you also got audio, like how many audio sources are they going to have? And then the real, like, behind the scenes thing that you're paying for is like, I'd say this is probably over 50% of what you're paying for is the editing style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not just paying for somebody to come and record your wedding. You're paying for somebody to edit this wedding video for you.
Yeah, and that's actually a perfect transition into some of the questions for those couples that are shopping around and they're looking to hire a wedding videographer. There's a perfect transition into some of those questions that we want to go over and kind of why they're important. As I know Ben mentioned style a little bit, but I'd say one of the most important things you want to ask them is, what is your style? And that kind of goes along with the value too. So I know I mentioned something like a music video type montage. You know, there's no audio or dialogue from the day. It's just clips, clips with music over it. That's how I shot my first like 5 weddings. And obviously I wasn't charging an arm and a leg to do that kind of thing. But you know, you have those like music driven type of videos, and then you have like the story driven type of videos. And almost 100% of the time, if you're looking at getting like a story driven video, which I think you should, you can expect to pay a little bit more out of your pocket. But
Yeah, and now the thing that I don't know if people really understand is like now I've never edited wedding photos. I've edited photos before.
Which I have to do here like right after this.
This week, yeah. I think the longest part of the process is probably culling the photos, like pulling out the good ones from the thousands upon thousands that you took.
Mm-hmm.
But with video, the process starts with like you're not just culling your footage, but you're culling your audio. You're listening to all the audio from the day. This is for if you're paying for like an experienced editor. If you're not paying for somebody that's going to do that, essentially they could just be going through and dropping clips on the timeline in chronological order, with like Ed Sheeran, whatever, "Marry Me," like as the song.
And that's exactly what I was talking about with like the music video type style. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that, but I'll let Ben go on with, you know, why story is important.
If you pay with the story if you're paying for like a more experienced videographer, you're gonna get sound design. You're gonna get audio of like little audio snippets that were like really significant, like maybe as you're like the first. So like when I film a wedding, Reed does the same thing. We both mic the brides, if we're able to, and so that way we can get audio. So like during the first look, the bride's approaching the groom, and if it was only the groom wearing the audio, then we couldn't get like the sounds of the bride walking up. So like this one I'm currently working on, the bride's walking up, and you hear her say, "Hey there, sugar." And you would not be able to hear that on the groom's mic. And I didn't hear that when I was recording.
Mm-hmm.
But I can put that in the film and tie it in with his mic as he turned around. So you get this whole new experience. But then you also got like, I can put sounds of like nature in so that when you're watching it, you almost feel like you're there again, rather than just like a music video with lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, and that's like a perfect example of why like storytelling is so important, because like you're gonna see and hear all of those like in between moments that, you know, might not be captured by the photographer, or like, you know, maybe the groom didn't even hear her say like, "Hey sugar," or whatever, and then when you put that into their video, and be like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't even realize that, how cute," or whatever, you know, depending on the language of the couple, but how awesome, how cute, whatever. But yeah, it's so important, especially audio. It's so important to have dialogue in your wedding film, especially like if you want like a good story. And that's just like a perfect example, because if you weren't recording anything, like you'd have nothing of it. All you'd have is just a shot of her walking up to him.
Yeah, and then that's the other thing. I mean, I could have, like, if you're paying for, let's say you pay $1,000 or less, you might have one person there with one camera, and so you'll get one angle. Whereas, like, when we film weddings, we usually will have 2 people going, one tight shot of the groom, like the groom's face. This is just for the first look too.
Yeah.
Like ceremonies are a whole new game, a whole different game. But for like the first look, yeah, we'll have a tight shot of the groom, but then like I'll have a kind of a wide shot of the bride approaching the groom so that we can kind of tie it all together, to kind of give you a more visual experience of where the location was and how it felt there.
And you know, it's super important to have several angles and several cameras too, which transitions into another question that you 100% should be asking is ask about their equipment and ask about their backups. So say, ask them, okay, so what if one of your cameras breaks on the day of the wedding? Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to capture, our wedding? So make sure they've got a plan in place too. Ben's got what, 5, 6 cameras?
Five. I usually have 5 cameras. 6 would be nice though. I mean, there's always different angles. You always like when you're editing a film. I'm always like, man, like imagine if I could have gotten Uncle Bob crying in the middle of the
The ceremony.
But like realistically, we're sitting there trying to capture the bride and groom, and they're the people that are the closest to them. But yeah, the more cameras, the better.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not only important to get those, those angles, but it also will save your butt too if one, or God forbid, 2 of your cameras start to malfunction for some reason. You still can get the job done. And I think that's just a super important question to ask because, if you're paying $1,000 or less for I'd even go $2,000 or less for a wedding videographer, you're looking at probably 1 camera, maybe 2. And if that 1 camera decides to not work that day, you're out of luck. So
I like to say though that like if that's all you can afford, there's nothing wrong with that. Like having 1 camera there is perfect. Even if it's your little nephew on his iPhone, like that maybe you don't get it edited as super cool, but like watching those things back, you're gonna love. It just depends on how much you want to, like you'll have more of like with an iPhone, you're maybe not going to hear the audio of "Hey Sugar" and stuff like that, but you'll at least get the reaction.
And that's a good note too. Like if I have a couple that reaches out to me and I'm out of their budget and, we've talked and we've figured out like that there's just no room for more money or to whatever. Just the long-winded way of saying that would be just when I have a couple reach out to me and they can't afford my prices, I always encourage them to keep looking and to get a videographer or to have someone carry a camera around on their day because like you said, even if it's on an iPhone and you have that little clip of the first look or, mom and dad crying or grandma and grandpa dancing or something like that, even though it's not going to be edited, like you said, in such a way, it's still going to be amazing to have. And it's going to be a way to preserve those memories from your wedding day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would like to, something I wrote up this thing for Alex McCrary when she was talking about why you should have video like with your photo. And this comes down to more psychological things, but like with photos, photos are more focused on capturing still moments. And so like you get a photo of like the bride with the groom kind of in the distance. And then you'll get a shot of her like tapping his shoulder, and then you'll get a shot of his face when he like turns around, and then a shot of them like hugging. And as time goes on, your brain like fills in those gaps that happen in between each of those photos. And like, unfortunately, our brains are not perfect, and like memories fade over time, and we start to create these things called false memories. And eventually you create this whole scenario that like wasn't actually accurate at all. Whereas with video, you're getting 100% accurate representation of what happened.
Yeah, you're literally getting the raw moment of what's happening. Like, in a way, like, it's always going to be how exactly it happened. With, like, photos and stuff, you can like, if you wanted to Photoshop mountains in the background, you obviously could. I wouldn't recommend getting a photographer that wants to put mountains in, like, an Iowa wedding. But, with video, you can do that, but it is so hard and so time consuming that, the most that we really do with editing, besides storytelling, which is the most difficult part of that, but the most we like do with those edits is like color grade it, or color correct or color grade. So literally everything that you see, like what Ben was saying, everything that you see in your video is exactly how it happened, which is pretty cool. Because then you won't have like those false memories like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I know I mentioned a little bit about color grading. So kind of back to the questions about asking about their style. You want to make sure you ask about like how do they color their films, the color correct. Like make sure that you're hiring someone that can give you exactly what you want. So if you want like a dark and moody wedding film, make sure that the person you're talking to can produce a dark and moody type of film. Or if you want a light and airy, kind of dreamy video, make sure you're asking those questions and make sure you're seeing their work, because you want what you want. And as wedding vendors too, we want to give you exactly what you want. So we even appreciate it when you ask us those deeper questions.
And one thing you can do, I mean, I feel like if you ask them these questions, they're gonna be like, oh, absolutely, we can do that. Yeah. But you want to go and look at their website, look at their YouTube. Like, if you go to their website, more than likely, they're going to showcase the best films they've ever done, or their favorite, or the kind of films that they want to do. But you want to look a little deeper. You want to see how consistent that style is, how consistent their coloring is. Now, also, pay attention to the date. Like, I released videos 2 years ago that like are completely different than the films I film now, just because of what I've learned and the things I've done. But so kind of look like within the past year, what their style has looked like, how they've changed, and then also look at reviews. Like so my Facebook, for some reason, like reviews don't show up on my Facebook, but people can go and review my business on Google. I don't know if it's because of the theme I have for Facebook or what, but yeah, people can review on Google. So you want to pay attention to those.
Yeah, that's a super good, like, just do your research. Like, so if you see like an ad of a wedding video, or like Ben said, you go to their website, you are going to see the best of the best work. You're going to see, if they've done elopements in like the mountains or at the beach or something. That's what you're going to see. And that's what's going to draw you in. But make sure you either ask or you can do your own research and say, can I see a video from Iowa, or can I see like a video at this venue if you filmed there? Just make sure that you have seen a fair amount of their films. Like, you don't have to watch all of them. You can get a pretty good idea if you watch like 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. But definitely do a little bit of research, because you don't want to just see one video and be like, all right, take my money, and then get something that's just not what you're expecting. That would be bad. But
yeah.
Shoot.
How about we just take a second and take a word from our sponsor. All right, and we're back.
Wait, you didn't?
All right, we're back.
Yeah, that was a word from our sponsors over at Anchor Podcast, or Anchor.fm, or what? I think that's the only sponsor.
Anchor.
That's the only sponsor we have. But yes, go check out Anchor if you want to do.
If you'd like to be sponsored, if you'd like to be sponsored, just reach out to us. We'll do it.
Yep.
We'll pay you.
CreativeKrunch sponsorship. Yep. But yeah, so welcome back, everybody, from the. I don't know. We probably could have just kept talking instead of pausing. Ben had to go get another drink, so kind of off our game now. But yeah, so we're talking about what you should look for in a wedding videographer, what questions you should ask, different things like that. And the next question that we have that you should ask is, what is your process on the wedding day? Are you a fly on the wall? Are you just kind of, not really in the action? You're just filming everything going on? Or are you kind of up in the action? Are you posing? Are you making sure that light is looking flattering, like on your faces? But yeah, I mean, that's super important, because those are two very different things. Like, if you're a fly on the wall, that's fine. But you're not gonna get the most flattering angles, most flattering images, most flattering light. But when you go the route of getting someone who, is up in the action, is posing and kind of giving a little more direction, a perfect example of this is when you're getting ready in the morning. Sometimes that lighting, whether in the hotel or whatever, is just garbage. It's like yellow, orange. It's just bad colors. Someone who's kind of up in the action and directs a little bit might be like, hey, can we move you over by this window and can we turn off these lights? We just want to make sure that it looks very flattering. The color looks good. And I think that's super important. I think both ways are great. But I know the way that Ben and I kind of do it is we're definitely more up in the action. We're literally with the photographer, like posing and we're doing just as much as the photographer kind of on the wedding day. But yeah.
Yeah, the fly on the wall. That'll be a much. So the difference between the fly on the wall and the up in the action is, so like I believe when people pay for like my services, they're paying for the experience. So that's like me coming with my own ideas for the wedding party, getting them to interact with me and the camera, because believe it or not, you're going to want people to be looking at the camera. Mm-hmm. Like you want them to be interacting with the camera.
I think another good example of that is like on the dance floor. I know you and I both do this. I got the idea from you. But like actually giving your camera out to the bride or the groom or whatever, and like holding it like a vlog and like literally interacting with the camera, like with your bridal party or the dance floor or whatever. It just kind of puts a whole new, it like takes your film to another level, in my opinion. Like obviously there's some that really just want that dreamy vows and toast type of thing, but yeah, interacting with the camera is very, very important.
Yeah, and the fly on the wall is fine. That'll be more kind of like your grandparents' wedding video, mm-hmm. More just kind of like in the background, which is fine, but it won't feel quite as in the, like, I don't even know how I'm trying to explain this, but like, so like if it's not the fly on the wall style, then we can kind of fill your film with more interactions, and like, yes, there will be a couple staged shots like portraits, but it's exactly what your photographer does. Mm-hmm. Like your photographer's going to have you do it, so why not have us there too? And it's literally, we're trying to capture you in your most flattering, like you said, flattering form, so that when you're old and wrinkled, you can look back and see how good you looked.
Yeah, like literally our job is to make you look good. Like we're not going to put like, we may get an angle that isn't necessarily like super flattering, but we're not going to put that in the film. Like we look for that in the editing process. Obviously you want to look the bride and groom want to look just stunning in their video. So it's important for us to make sure that happens. And so, like I said, whether that was with lighting or the coloring of a room or the way you're posed or whatever, I just think that's why it's important for like us to be kind of up in the action and not really just off kind of to the side, just filming whatever happens. But yeah, like Ben said, there's nothing wrong with that. Usually that'll probably be a little bit cheaper too, if that's the type of wedding that you want and wedding video you want, and not a whole bunch of direction. You just want to see clips from the day. Yeah, it's a great option to go for. But if you really want a story-driven, flattering, just stunning film, you definitely want to hire a videographer who knows what they're doing, is up in the action, posing, whatever. Probably went on a little bit of a tangent there.
Poses, you can watch a film where you have your, like, the best man or maid of honor, they're just talking. But after a while, that angle you can, like, lose focus. So, like, we're going to try to, like, in your film, use some of those flattering portraits to overlay as like B-roll, to kind of tie in with what they're saying about you too.
Yeah. So like if the best man or the maid of honor, they're like, gosh, just look at you two. You guys you're perfect, and it just makes sense that you're together. When he's saying that, it'd be perfect to overlay that with those portraits that we're talking about that are very flattering and very good looking, rather than just looking at either the maid of honor or best man who's just talking, saying that, which is fine. I mean, that works too. You don't always have to put B-roll over everything. For those of you who don't know, there's like A-roll and B-roll. We can get into that in another podcast, but that just helps elevate that story to the next level. But yeah, kind of went on a tangent there.
That was good.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good tangent. Super important to ask when you're meeting or emailing or whatever with your wedding videographer or potential wedding videographer. Ask who is filming the wedding and who is editing the wedding, because there are companies out there that have associate shooters and they outsource their edits, which can come back to like making the quality maybe not as good. So maybe they just brought on a new associate shooter and they like, hey, go film this wedding. You might not get exactly what you're looking for. So you definitely want to make sure you know who's filming, you know who's editing. There's nothing wrong with companies that have like associate shooters or anything like that. Just make sure that you are talking to the person that's like actually going to be at your wedding. I think that's extremely important.
Yeah. With those associate companies, I think that's usually who people see first when they're looking for a budget-friendly videographer. But yeah, like you said, you don't really know. Every film might be a little bit different. Now, there are companies who have one main editor and then they have associates who shoot for them, and I think those do sort of well. But then there's companies who have associate shooters but also outsource their editing to other editors.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not the way that we do things.
But yeah, then you have companies like us who specialize in it. So like we both film the weddings and edit them. Mm-hmm. So like we've been there, we know what was important. So when we come back home, we already know like, okay, this happened, this was really significant, so this has to go in the film, rather than someone who's seeing it for the first time when they get on the computer.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into like this next. It's not really a question; it's more of a statement. But get to know who's going to film your wedding. Get to know them personally. Know what their personality is like. You want to have like a connection with them. I know for Ben and myself, it's very important for us to build a relationship with our couples. Because the last thing that you want is you want some random dude or girl that you don't know at your wedding day making you feel kind of uncomfortable because you don't know them. They're pointing a camera at you, whatever. So make sure to set up times for meetings or go get food or go get drinks or whatever. I know Ben is meeting with a couple tonight and they're grabbing dinner. I think that's so important. I know Ben can talk on that a little bit more too, and of why it's important.
Yeah, for me, first, like you said, we want to connect with you guys, and I personally would rather come to your wedding as friends rather than just like, oh, there's the videographer. I want to be the videographer, but like, in 10 years, I'd rather have you be like, oh yeah, it was Ben Libby who filmed my wedding, not Graphic Formation or whatever. But yeah, I think for me, it really comes down to seeing what makes you two click. So then I can kind of personalize your video for you. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to like music choice, like knowing what makes you two get on the dance floor, what kind of stuff you two like to do together. Just seeing that connection, that chemistry between you two is like super important. And I also want you to feel comfortable. So like coming to your wedding with you have already like hung out with me once or twice will help you feel more like genuine, I guess. So like when you're sitting watching your film, you're not thinking about how uncomfortable you were as I was filming you. You were actually being yourselves in front of the camera.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a bigger concern sometimes that couples have too is, you know, when someone's pointing a camera at your face, it's nerve-wracking, like it's uncomfortable. But if you know the person that's pointing the camera at your face, it makes it way better. And as weird as it sounds, the more that we know you and the more of a relationship that we have with our couples, we can tell so much of such a better story in the edit. And I don't really know how to go into depth on why that is. But like Ben mentioned, like with music and just kind of knowing how you guys interact and knowing your story a little bit, that just elevates your wedding film so much higher than if I just randomly showed up on your day and had no idea who you were.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what's next?
Well, I mean, watch multiple films. We talked about that a little bit. Another important question to ask is, what's your experience? You know, you might be looking for someone who's just starting out, but you know, if you're paying a decent amount of money, probably $3,000 or up, ask about their experience. Ask about how many weddings they've filmed. Ask why they do it. Make sure they're passionate about what they do. Because I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure there's several vendors out there that do it for the paycheck. While yes, it's nice, it puts food on the table, but like Ben is like, I've never met someone so passionate about, you know, filming weddings. I'm passionate about it too, but I think Ben has a video somewhere out there about it, but I don't know. Sorry, tangent. But it's just so important that whoever is filming your wedding actually loves what they do and isn't just doing it for the money. That's also going to make your film way, 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 way better. And that goes for everything. That goes for DJs, photographers.
Yeah. So like, are they doing this for a paycheck, or are they doing it because they love doing it? I mean, I'm obviously doing it for both, but I mean, yeah, I need to put food on my table, but I don't think, if I didn't love it, I don't think I would do this as a paycheck. Like, it's a lot of work.
It is so much work. You have to love it. If you didn't, you'd probably drive yourself crazy because gosh, how many hours do you think you put into, like, from booking to delivering final product, how many hours do you think on average you put in to your job? Like just for one couple, for one video?
I think you could say maybe close to like 80 to 100 hours, maybe. I don't really, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't really tracked it that far back or that far like in advance.
Yeah, we should try to track it. But yeah, no, I was going to say like 65 to like 90 hours, just all spent on like one couple. But granted, that goes into the booking process, the emails, the video chats, the, you know, getting set up for the wedding the night before, filming the wedding, editing the wedding, delivering the wedding, communication, all of that stuff. But yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a long time, and it is quite a bit of work. So yeah, we just keep going on tangents, which I think is fine. But
yeah.
So we got like 3 more questions or 3 more tips, I guess, that we could give you is make sure you clearly know. Oh, we're out of focus. Make sure you clearly know what you're going to get. It's so important to have clarity with your videographer. So just make sure you know what the final products are. So like Ben, what are your final products kind of in detail that you give to your couples?
So what I give my couples, I know it's changed, but like right now when a couple books me, they're paying for like the listed product is they get a sneak peek, which is usually 1 to 3 minutes, a highlight film, which I have listed as 6 to 8 plus minutes, just so they know like it's gonna be at least 6 minutes. But it could be as long as like 12 minutes if they have a ton of stuff going on at their wedding. But then right now I have listed as full day coverage. I know some people say you shouldn't do that, but like for me, if the party dies off at like 9 p.m., 9:30, and I'm just standing around while everybody's just standing around talking, I'm probably going to be done filming. But like if the party keeps going, I might stick around and keep filming. Just to tell the story. But yeah, so that's what I deliver is those 3 things. And then people can always add on like a ceremony edit, a toast edit, but
Yeah. So definitely like ask those questions. Ask how long is my final film going to be? Am I going to get the ceremony or do I need to pay extra for that? Do you do a sneak peek? Do you do like what's new and popular now, like Instagram reels? Just make sure you know what you're going to get because not saying that there are like shady people out there that aren't super upfront, but sometimes it is a little bit confusing. Because, what's the difference between the ceremony and versus the highlight? Like, aren't you going to use our vows in all the videos or, yeah. So just make, I guess all in all, just make sure you're asking a lot of questions, and really getting to know 1, who you're hiring, and 2, just like all the details.
yeah.
Also on my notes, another thing to add on that is make sure like when you're asking about like the final products, make sure you ask like when you'll receive them, like if they have a time frame. You can expect if you're paying more money, probably 3,000 plus, it's going to take a little bit to get you that final film, probably anywhere from, this also depends on like how many weddings you have in the backlog, but 10 to like 14 weeks probably on average to get like a very good 6+ minute highlight film.
Yeah, that's because like we're not just sitting here dragging clips onto a timeline in chronological order. We're being very intentional about like placing. We're like thinking about, okay, we want this is going to be the climax of the film. We're going to work backwards from there. We're going to, this piece of dialogue ties in with this piece of dialogue from the end of the day, so we'll put these next to each other so they kind of build. And it's an entirely different process than just throwing clips chronologically in an order. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people understand how much work goes into that. Like, we have to be distraction-free. So that's what you're paying for when you pay for more. Mm-hmm. You're paying for a non-linear wedding film, which, like, it still takes time to make certain non-linear films, but, like, I guess cookie cutter music video, wedding video.
Yeah. And
it takes longer.
I mean, Ben, you can talk about, what was it? Allie and Adam? I can't remember whose wedding video it was where every person that gave a speech was talking about how they met like on Bumble. And how that just like lined up so perfectly. That probably took you a little bit of time to find all of those clips and be like, wait, I can form like a little story out of that. But yeah, that was cool. That's a good example.
The one I just today, I'm trying a new method of storytelling, and I put everything onto a notes, so I can reorganize like where I put each clip. So yeah, like, I mean, it's an entirely different process. Like, you're paying for someone to tell your story, and just don't expect them to like, oh, your photos got delivered, so then you should get your wedding video the next week. Like, it's a pretty diligent process that it's gonna take time if you want it to be like really good.
Yeah, can't stress that enough. Is like it takes a lot of time, especially if you want it to be really good and really personal, and you want it to be your video. Sorry, someone was calling me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with checking in though with your videographer and be like, hey, how's it coming? Sometimes, like on me, on my Facebook page, I have a list of weddings that I'm editing. So like you can always check to see if maybe they have like an update somewhere. But yeah, just staying in touch with them. That's part of building a connection with our couples, is them building kind of trust with us. But yeah.
Yeah, and definitely like I know this will be after the process of you booking them, but like make sure your videographer is like staying in touch with you too. Like it's not just your job to be communicating. Whether that's through like an Instagram story, like Ben said, like on his Facebook, he has a list of what he's doing. You know, I'll text my couples like when I'm on to their wedding and like a time like they should expect to get it. Just communication is super important overall. Make sure you're communicating with your videographer and make sure your videographer is communicating with you. But there's not, I mean, unless you want to talk about pricing a little bit, like obviously you want to make sure you know the price of what you're paying for. I don't know, do you want to go into more of like the value, like why you should, if you want, geez, I cannot talk. If you want something really high end, why you can expect to pay upwards of $4,000 to $5,000. Otherwise, we can just save that for another video or for a guest or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the base just comes down to like in Iowa, prices can range from like $500 for a videographer up to like $7,000 for a videographer.
Or some people do it for free when they're starting out.
Yeah, and it's so hard because it's still pretty new. And there's so much that goes into videography that I think people just assume, oh, this guy's doing it for $500. He's gonna give us this sick video for $500. But
And in reality, you might get really lucky with like someone that charges $500 to $1,000. Like you might get really lucky and they might be really good, and they're just still trying to figure out where they're at. But 8 out of 10 times, maybe even 9 out of 10 times, you pay that. You're
risking.
Yeah, you pay what you get for. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, if you're gonna go with someone that charges $500, you better do a ton of research, and don't like have your expectations a little lower than what you're hoping for. Remember, you're putting the money you're giving them is you're paying them to preserve your memories. So you put the value in, like the value is, I don't know how to say what I'm saying.
It's unvaluable. Wait. No, it's very valuable. It's unpriced. There's no price tag. Like you just
you determine how valuable your memories are, I guess. So like
yeah, it's hard to put a price tag on.
Maybe you don't value video as much as like some other people do, but like if you really want to experience your wedding, the more you pay, the higher quality and better of an experience you're going to get overall.
And that's also why it's super important too to ask a bunch of questions, because you could find someone that's charging like $3,000 that has no business charging $3,000. So just be careful out there. Make sure you're asking those questions and really getting to know the people that either are or potentially are gonna work with you on your day. Like just literally, they're gonna be a part of your wedding day. So it's important that you know them and know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's wrap it up. What inspires you, Ben? Or what inspired you, or what did you learn?
Oh no, I'm never ready for this.
Or what are you struggling with that you wanna be better about? What's going on in Ben's life?
What inspired me? honestly, my neighbor, it's not necessarily inspiring. I almost feel bad. Like, I come outside and you look at my sidewalk and it just looks like a mountain you have to hike up. Where my neighbor, he like makes our house look like trash. He's got the cleanest sidewalk. It's like shoveled to a T. It's so crisp. You can see the cement all the way across. And then me, it's just this like mountain of like snow, and it's kind of inspired me to like, okay, when it snows, I'm gonna get out there and shovel right away.
Go shovel. Okay, we should do like a montage of the last 3 things that inspire you. I think it was
Light bulbs,
rugs,
and shoveling.
No shoveling snow. No, but all jokes aside, though, like that makes sense. It's easy to see.
He's also though retired, and that's probably all he is. Like he's like, you know what?
I'm gonna have a great yard.
I'm just gonna my sidewalk is gonna be just completely free of snow.
It's gonna be the best sidewalk in Cedar Rapids.
So yeah, it makes my house look like I just don't care. I feel bad for like the mailman. He like walks across my sidewalk right in front of my house. And then he's like looks back as he gets to my neighbors, and he's like, "What are those guys doing back there?" But yeah, what's inspiring you?
I am trying to think of it. I was not ready for this either, but I just know it's on brand for us to talk about what inspires us. What is it? Wednesday? No, it's Tuesday. So what? Last week. What did I do last week?
We talked about Dot the I.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's still inspiring, but not a double shout out.
Double shout out to Dot the I.
Dude, I'm blanking.
What was my trip?
My
That's
first
kind of inspiring.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, I just fell. Yeah, so Ben, Lauren, Cassidy, and myself are officially going on a trip to Utah.
We'll do a podcast while we're out there.
Dude, what if we like set up a podcast like outside of like the Salt Lake or something?
Oh, that'd be sick.
Or we just put like chairs in there, like brought a portable table.
That would be sick.
But yeah, no, that is inspiring. A nice little trip before. A safe trip.
We go into Wedding City.
Yeah, but wedding what?
Wedding City, I guess.
Yeah,
we're going to Wedding City.
Wedding City. No, it'll be a nice little trip before weddings really start to kick off. I think we're just gonna hang out, kind of explore. Obviously, Ben and I will probably have our cameras and our drones, and because
that's the week before. When are we going? I don't even know
March,
when we're going.
the first weekend of March, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll be fun. I'm actually doing a little bit of traveling this year, so I'm actually pretty excited about that. I'm going to Virginia, now Utah, Glacier. I mean, that's a vacation. Virginia's first shoot, and then potentially be going to Yosemite in California for an elopement. That'll be really cool. I hope that works out. But yeah, 2021 looking good. Excited to travel, inspired to travel, but it is no shoveling. Like shoveling, man.
Yeah.
Like I am so inspired to go shovel my entire apartment. I'm gonna shovel my apartment.
Looks like he has. Like I'm looking back at his yard right now, and it looks like he's got like. It's like this. It's like Narnia. Like you're walking through this magical path. It's like 1.5 feet, 2 feet on the sides of the sidewalk of snow, but just this crisp, clean sidewalk.
Beautiful. Yeah, you just painted such a great.
And then I lean back and I just see these deep footsteps in my yard of where I stepped to take the trash out.
You should go shovel the sidewalk for Lauren when she gets home.
It's to the point where like where you just keep making tracks. And so now it's just kind of packed down, and now you need like an ice pick to get that snow away. It's just too late.
There's
for
just
me.
some video of you like just pounding an ice pick at the.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, we're done.
Thanks for joining us, guys, and to next time.
Yep. We'll see you next time. Maybe there'll be a guest. Maybe there won't be. But yeah, thanks for listening to episode 3 or watching or however you consume it. So we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
This is the CreativeKrunch podcast.
Yesterday's left turn might be tomorrow's right turn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wait. That's a good idea.